Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, June the 27th. We are full bore into summer here. A lot of us, as we're coming together from all different areas, and I'm broadcasting from Chico, California. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Paradise. And our center's purpose is to teach the science of mind. The science of mind teaches principles and spiritual tools to awaken us to our spiritual magnificence, because that is the truth of each one of us. And so it's wonderful to have all of you with us today. And we join together in a community of deep love and knowing that we are one in the sacred heart of the divine presence of spirit. I have a couple of announcements before we begin. By the way, I'm Reverend Christine Jeffers, and I wanted to let you know that next Sunday is, as you probably know, is the 4th of July. And we will be welcoming back Daniel Nahmod, the singer and songwriter and guitar player and piano that we had a couple of weeks ago. That was such a wonderful experience. So you won't want to miss next Sunday and Daniel's presence. We have an opportunity to get to know him and his music a little bit more. With the idea of teaching universal principles and practices, these tools that allow us to change our beliefs, to encompass more of what is spiritually true about each one of us and about the universe, the nature of this divine presence that is the creator of all that lives within us. I wanted to remind you that we continue each week with our morning meditation practice from 9 to 9:45 at the latest. And that is on Tuesday and Thursday morning. And if you are not receiving the e-blast and the newsletter that goes out once a week, please contact me, and I will be sure to assist you or make sure that you are added to that. In the near future, we are going to be talking about at our board meeting this week about our process for broadcasting, beginning to broadcast from the Lotus Guide Center in Paradise, and to have our doors open there for people that want to come and experience the service in person. And we will also continue our online ministry and just simply move where we are broadcasting from. So for those of you that are in other areas or not ready or not able to come in person, no worries, we are here for you with our online community. So this morning, I ahead of time, I would like to thank Rod Loomis for singing our opening song. I'd like to put out a shout out of gratitude to Molly Millay for leading us through our guided meditation this morning, and to our technical guru, Reverend Larry Pesta, for his ongoing support, for his sense of humor, and just the way that his presence lifts us up in so many ways. So we shall begin.
Good morning. I invite you to listen with your heart. Here we go. In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me. There's quite enough faith and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, sweet spirit, is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough faith and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, sweet spirit, is in this very room. And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough faith and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, God's Spirit, is in this very room. This very room, beloved Julie. This very room.
And so this morning, as we come together in the prayerful recognition that the divine intelligence of life is a living spirit, this service this morning, our love in gathering together, and the recognition of this loving presence that is the creator of all. This coming together this morning is dedicated to that infinite life force individualized as Julie Cook. And so we honor and we celebrate this infinite presence, the living spirit that she is. And know that in her passing, that there is a great freedom, that that living spirit within her and as her continues as the life force that she is, the consciousness of love and beauty, of compassion and wisdom that has unfolded, recognized itself, and been born from within the spirit that she is. And we come together this morning recognizing that this spirit is individualized within each one of us. This loving presence that is the life force, that is alive and well. Here on planet Earth, in this plane of existence, or the infinite other numbers of heaven on earth. And so we give thanks for the opportunity to be together this morning in spiritual community, to be grounded into the spiritual truth of this loving presence that is right at the center of our being, expressing through us and as us and all around us, that we live and breathe and have our life force by means of this spirit, that it is the wisdom and the unconditional love, the beauty and the light, the harmony and the freedom that resides deep within the eternal nature of our souls. And in this truth, we are lifted up. That inner eye of consciousness opens to a greater realization of who we are and the life that we are living. The opportunity to unfold and to express our divine nature with full abandonment as we live, love ourselves, and love one another. And so it is in deep gratitude and acceptance that I speak these words, and that I know that everything that is unfolding this morning is for the highest and the best of each one of us here, for everyone within the sound of my voice in present time or another time. For in the mind of God, there is only now. And so we simply open our hearts and let this truth be our truth. As together we affirm, and so it is. Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's dedicate our guided meditation today to our darling friend Julie, and to dearest Jay and Justin and Samantha and Henny and August. Julie, whose memory is truly a bridge of love and a comfort and a blessing that fills each and every breath. So get as comfortable as possible, sitting upright, posture that gives you a sense of relaxed stability, a sense of presence and dignity. Soften your eyes, gently close them. Soften your face and your whole body. And for these few moments, relax your thoughts, your plans, your lists, your doing, and just come into present moment awareness. This present moment awareness that allows us to live in love. This being human can be horribly challenging and painful. So practicing the art of self-compassion and trust connects us to our inner knowing. And this week I found that the gentle practice of breath awareness is the most helpful and encouraging for quieting an aching heart. By relaxing into the flow of breathing, we can connect with the inner strength and our inner knowing, that stability and peace that rests within. This place where sadness doesn't need to be fixed, where sadness heals us by showing us the depths of love and the vastness of our heart. Each of us is born with this knowing, this ability to connect with the divine. And when we do, when we have that connection, our lives are in alignment. And all we need to feel that is to pay attention, to trust in this inner knowing, to have faith in the inner light of God that's within each of us, not faith in an external God to provide us with purpose, but in the call that you're hearing from the very center of your being. And when you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed or fearful or sad, connecting in stillness to this place will soothe your energies, quiet your fears, and help you to feel held in love. So let's turn inward and open the pathway to our heart and allow ourselves to dissolve into our divinity and release any notion of separation. Realizing that God is present in every person, every moment, every situation. And to feel that the spirit of harmony and order and love is at work in each and every experience, no matter how painful. That love and peace are established at the very core of your life. So just enter the gentle grace of your breathing. And take a couple of long, slow, deep breaths in and out through your nose. Drawing in the divine breath of the universe deeply into you as your belly expands. And at its fullest point, slowly and quietly allowing the air to effortlessly flow back out. Inhaling fully, exhaling completely. Your body and mind calming. Now, allowing the breath to settle into a seamless flow. The end of each inhalation gently flowing into the exhalation. A flowing ribbon of divine breath breathing you. An infinity of breath. And surrender into this sacred power of the breath to bring you into awareness of your calm center, that center of union with all that is. No need to try, just to allow, to release, to relax. When you sink that awareness from your thinking mind into the breath, the stillness of your presence helps the spiritual heart connect to that inner knowing. And it's in this spaciousness that the spiritual heart can hold all experience, sadness and joy. Here is the place of knowing that the formless and the formed are one. Feel the divine energy that runs inside you with each breath, for this is the knowing, the loving awareness. And this love is the entrance door into the one. And resting together in this awareness, we are swimming together in the great ocean of love that holds us all. There's no separation, only our perception. And as you breathe into this ocean of love, allow these words of the wisdom holder, Jeff Foster, who writes about this inner knowing. The ocean is not absent, even in the smallest wave. Your presence, that unchanging sense of I am, that simple, intimate feeling of being alive here and now, that nobody had to teach you, that needs no proof, no external validation, that presence you intuitively know is your deepest sense of identity and dignity and power, is never absent. Even in the midst of rage and despair, the most profound sadness or grief, it cannot abandon you. No experience can destroy it, and every thought, sound, sensation, and dream arises and falls in its boundless, indestructible embrace. It is the source. It is the silence within the noise. It is closer than the next breath, where it breathes with you as you. It is not an object, a form, a definable thing, yet it takes shape as all things and dances as worlds. And when you feel lost, you are already found here. And when you doubt, there is great certainty here. And when you cannot hold yourself, you are held here. It is what you are. It is life itself, unbreakable and free. It cannot be understood, and yet it is there even in confusion. In a million different ways, you have ever only been seeking yourself. So let us remember moving forward that when we are able to look deeply, we can embrace all experience with compassion. We can experience all hardship in the light of loving awareness. For God is present in every person and every experience. And the spirit of harmony and order and understanding is at work in every situation. And love and peace are established in your life. So take another deep breath in and exhale completely. And let us go forward and live lives that would honor Julie's memory. Lives of compassion and loving kindness. Namaste. And now, holding this tenderness, we will move into the beautiful, beautiful song, Over the Rainbow. That was one of Julie's very, very favorites and a favorite of the congregation, and especially this version by Izzy. And we hold the spirit of aloha for Julie and her family.
What a wonderful world. drops like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dare to, why, oh, why can't
Beautiful. So beautiful. Mm. Well, today I want to share some thoughts with you about the journey of the heart. And actually, what life is teaching me and actually has been teaching me and all of us from the very beginning is that the way is through the heart. The path of coming closer and closer into the recognition and the realization that we're not just spiritual beings having a human experience, that really the sum total of everything that we are and everything that we are experiencing is spiritual. And that when we take our intellect and we place it into our heart, that the heart shows us the way through everything and anything that we will experience. And so in this way, the way of the heart is actually what is bridging for us heaven and earth and bringing more into focus that it is through our perspective and our consciousness and through placing our mind in our heart and letting the heart lead the way that we're transformed, that earth is transformed. And what we begin to see and experience at a deeper level of our being is heaven as earth, heaven as our life. So, a while ago, one Sunday, when Reverend Larry Pesta gave a talk, the title of that talk was Fasten Your Seatbelts. And that's what it feels like to me, the way of the heart, bridging heaven and earth, being in the experience of our life. Fasten your seatbelts. As Molly said, it can be painful. It's not. It's not always easy. but we have the recognition and the continuing practice and learning opportunities of the principles that we teach, that there is one infinite life of the Spirit of God, of divine intelligence. It doesn't matter what you call it, the thing itself, that invisible, whole and complete and perfect life force, the creator of all things. And just looking at that video of the images of the rainbow and the people and the different beautiful aspects of the planet. We are surrounded in beauty. And yet, so frequently, to see that beauty in ourselves is difficult. The way of the heart to bridge heaven on earth is to come into the realization that the greatest challenges that we experience in life are actually our opportunities to know a deeper level of our value and of our worth. There's a beautiful song that is sung by a number of artists, including our beloved Reverend David Alt. And the title of the song is How Could Anyone Ever Tell You? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than whole? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? The idea of fasten your seatbelts can be followed with you're about to be born. You are a beautiful, whole, complete, and perfect, divinely intelligent, full of spirit, about to be born into a body. And you will forget. Little by little, you will forget. But the way of the heart, the opportunities in life will present themselves if we choose them, if we dig deep to come into our own realization and recognition that we are beautiful. Now, my life, not so different maybe in experiences, but not so different from all the rest of humanity and all the rest of you. My life was anything other in my younger life, anything other than digging deep into myself. Anything other than digging deep into that which I was experiencing: loss, suffering, being born into an alcoholic family full of chaos. Having a father that was highly critical of me, and seemed like he didn't miss an opportunity from a young age to let me know where I was falling short. Now, I totally understand why I moved away from feeling those experiences. But on the day that I walked into what was then called the Church of Religious Science Paradise, and in the very early days that I was there, one of the things that I heard in the opening prayer treatment was this: there is a place within you that is untouched by any condition, any experience you have ever had. There is a place within you that is divinely beautiful, whole, complete, perfect, valuable, loving, caring. A place within you that the world needs, that you need. And so little by little, I came to recognize that to turn away from the pain of the things that I had learned about myself as an early age was simply perpetuating the things that I had come to believe about myself. And that in turning away from the pain and the discomfort of the beliefs that I had formed that had embodied themselves in my subconscious, that subjectively, because I believed them, because of what I believed about myself, that was outpicturing in my choice, in my choices. And so the parts of me that were beautiful and expressive and life-filled and caring, and the gifts and the talents that had been incarnated in me as I was set free and took on a body within the earth, not walking on the earth, but absolutely a part of the earth, were opportunities for me to dig deep. As I studied the science of mind and applied what I was learning to myself, I came deeper and deeper into the realization, into the awareness of where I was, because of fear, where I was turning away from my gifts and my talents. As a young child, one of the things that gave me such great joy was the fact that from a very, very young age, with free abandonment, I would sing. But as there was more and more criticism and chaos and discomfort and feelings of not being enough that I took on, that I began to play small, that I began to turn within, and that free abandonment of expression began to shut down. And then I heard that statement: there's a place within you that is untouched by anything you've ever experienced, by any belief that you've ever formed about yourself that you were less than. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful and capable and worthy and valuable and loving, and that your beingness is important? Now, I know from some conversations that I had with Julie that she believed that. And that even though she experienced many illnesses, that she continued to grow spiritually, that she continued to honor the true self that she was, that she continued to grow and open to the love of God within her right up and through her transition from this experience to another. That there was something within her that was ready. We'll never really know. But we can trust in the knowing that there are no accidents, that the spirit of life is really and truly the only activity that is happening. As I continued to grow and serve in different ways in the center, one of the things that I found that I loved to do that was such a surprise to me was to work with the children. And I continued that practice well on into when I moved to the Chico Church of Religious Science with Dr. Carolyn. And I remember sitting on the floor with children that were really, really young. I mean, sometimes as young as 2 or 3 and older. And we would sit on the floor in a circle. And we had these candles that we would light. Probably today we might do it a little bit differently for safety, but each child that was capable of would light a candle, and we would light at least 7 different candles, and each one of the candles represented a quality or an attribute of spirit, like love and light and beauty and joy and wisdom and abundance. And so as we lit the candle, I would say, God is love. And then one child would light the candle, they would put it down and they would sit back and they would say, I am love. And then the next child would pick up the candle and I would say, God is beauty. They'd light the candle and they would say, I am beautiful. And this would go on through the various different qualities of life, of spirit. These things that are incarnated in us that may go dormant because of experiences, but they're waiting to be ignited and recognized, and to see the children so confidently and clearly claim this. And the way that it might the way that it would transform any little bickering that was going on, and the way they would become more generous in their sharing and being together and caring of one another and watching out for the younger ones. It was nothing short of amazing and beautiful and healing. They were learning that it was okay to be themselves. Now, last week, I was telling the story of the monastery that had fallen onto hard times, and how the monks that were left at the monastery had become rigid and crabby. Because you see, they were believing that they were responsible for the hard times that the monastery had fallen on. And they began to be critical of themselves, thinking that it was their fault. And there was no place within their monastery or within their practices for them to talk about their fears, for them to dive deeper into what they were afraid of and what they believed about the situation. There was no place for them to recognize that really there was nothing wrong here, that what was happening in the monastery was not their fault. And so they began to project the criticism and the lack of worthiness upon each other. And they were seeding, by what they were believing about themselves, the next experience for their monastery. And, it wasn't until the abbot of the monastery went to visit his dear friend and sat with him and said, my gosh, we've fallen on such hard times and we're so fearful about that the monastery might have to close because no new people are coming. And as he got up to leave, and he said, do you have any advice? And his dear friend said, no, but remember, one among you is the Messiah. This was definitely a head turner as he walked back to the monastery. And in his mind, he went through thinking about the different personalities and beginning to shift his perspective on the other monks to see them differently. Rather than having the perspective, which was actually coming from within himself, that he thought he was to blame, that as the abbot, he wasn't enough. He must be doing something wrong. Because growing up, he had his own false beliefs about himself. He had forgotten how beautiful and powerful and loving he was. And little by little, their spiritual practices went by the wayside. Now, in the story, it's interesting to note that after he thought about all the various personalities and began to look through the eyes of, could it be him? Could it be Thomas that is the Messiah? Could it be Ralph that is the Messiah? And he began to see their personalities from a greater perspective, that nothing was wrong here. He saw their beauty. He saw how they brought a unique and special perspective. And when he came to himself, it was even more difficult to consider, could he be the Messiah? And that was the practice that actually changed them, each one of them. When they took that idea, one amongst you is the Messiah. When they took that into their own hearts, into their own spiritual practice, when they looked deep within their own heart at the places within them that believed that they were not enough, where there was so much pain and discomfort around that they chose to not feel it or experience, and they placed it aside. They said, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave that behind. But the result was that they shrank. Because the opportunity to dive deep into the experience and to reclaim themselves, to feel the pain of what what they had learned, what people had taught them when they were young, whether it was parents or teachers or siblings, or an experience that they had begun to believe in lack and limitation. And when there were challenges, they thought that they were to blame. And they even railed upon God, like the story of the man that wandered, and he saw all the pain and the suffering in the town that he lived. And finally, he went to his guru and he sat at the feet and he said, why is God not doing anything about all of these problems, people going hungry, and the hatred and the injustices that humanity is projecting on each other, the way that they're blaming each other and fighting? Why isn't God doing anything? Why isn't he sending answers and someone to help? And the wise one said, oh, but he is my beloved. God sent you. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? This is a spiritual principle. This is the principle that we teach. There is only one life. That life is God. We live and breathe and have our being in the life of this infinite one, individualized as us. And so when challenges and disease and loss of a loved one and financial hardships come our way, we were told in the beginning, fasten your seatbelts. You're about to be born in a body, and you will forget that you are the light. You will have challenges. You will have pain, and you will suffer. And you will forget that you are the Messiah. There is not just one Messiah walking on earth. There is an infinite multitude of individualized Messiahs and Christ consciousness on earth. And the place that we go to look for it is the way of the heart. And there is no way to go through the path of the heart and to bridge heaven and earth without feeling, without embracing the pain and the discomfort of the belief that we have accepted that we're unworthy, that we're faulty in some way. And so I began to sing. And I noticed that there was a choir at this beautiful little church that reminded me that I was more than I believed myself to be. And I volunteered to sing some solos. And I shook, and I made mistakes, and my voice cracked. And I kept singing and breathing through the nervousness, breathing through the mind chatter that said, you're going to fail. It's going to look ridiculous. And breathing through those that loved me anyway and told me so. And breathing even through the people that said, oh, honey, that wasn't very good. Yes, because you see, love is all there is. But that doesn't mean we won't come into contact with unlovingness. It's up to us to remember that we are the Christ, that we are the anointed one, that no matter what anyone says or believes about us, that that's none of our business. That we are spirit, that there's only one of us here, and that we can cry and say it's not fair, and we can allow ourselves to move through the pain, to feel the fear, and yet to lovingly bring that small, afraid part of ourselves out into the light and remind ourselves, how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? It's up to us. It's up to us to change our beliefs and thereby change our life. This is what our spiritual community is about. And right now, in terms of activities, we don't have a lot going on, but things they are changing. And the world is opening up. And so will we. And those who are ready and those who are local will come together. And we will greet the Messiah in each one of us, because we have work to do. We have things to do. We have classes to do and book studies and groups to do fear to faith worksheets, to dive into and dismantle those false beliefs that cause us to shrink and to not bring our gifts forward, to not speak our truth, to not recognize that we have talents and gifts to share, and to realize, because it's actually the sharing, walking through that pain, so symbolic of a fire walk. Walking across the coals, you're looking ahead and you have a vision of where you're going. Not looking down at every step and being fearful of what you're taking, the steps that you're taking, but looking where you're going. And this meant so much to Julie. She was on the board. She's a part of the board still. She was the bookkeeper and the admin person. She was a champion on Facebook for the center. Her beauty and her love of this teaching and her passion and her commitment is an inspiration. Yes, the center has had challenges, loss, devastation, changes that have brought people to their knees. And we rise. We rise because the way is the heart, the bridging of heaven on earth. Our seatbelts are fastened, and we know the truth of who we are. We are the Messiah. We are the Christ. We are the spirit of infinite love, and our wings are ready to soar. We are blessed on our journey. And I am honored to be with you. I love you. Abundant blessings are everywhere. I'm filled with gratitude. And the God in me greets the God in you. And so it is.
And now it's time for our offertory. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I have, and all that I receive. And together we say 3 times, I give joyfully with a consciousness of abundance. I give joyfully with a consciousness of abundance. I give joyfully with a consciousness of abundance. And so it is.
And so would you join me in a closing prayer? We turn within to the full and expansive recognition that the spirit of infinite life, the divine intelligence, is a living spirit, alive and well within all life, whether on this plane of existence or another. That we are in God, in spirit, in this infinite love. It is the very essence of who and what we are. And our hearts are filled with gratitude and openness for the recognition of this truth. We are grounded in the love of our Creator. And for all of the blessings and the donations and the pledges and the tithes that come through the financial support for this teaching, for this message within the world, the Center for Spiritual Paradise is infinitely grateful and circulating with abundance that which prospers, deepens, opens the hearts of our members and friends, and teaches these spiritual principles and tools to awaken each one of us, and those who have yet to come to our spiritual magnificence. We are centers for spiritual living, and we are glad of it. We are grounded in this truth. We are full of gratitude, opportunities, and recognizing the infinite abundance that is all around us, in us, through us, and as us. And so together we affirm and accept with that namaste consciousness. And so it is.